Good day, boys and girls. This is Park Naturalist Vicki, following up with my last video. That last time we got together, I focused on land mammals. And today, I'm going to be redirecting to the skies, to the trees, to the water, to teach you about the wonderful world of birds. Now, birds are a little different from mammals, wouldn't you say? But the great thing is birds live all over the world. They live in the forests, they live in the deserts, they live in the Arctic polar regions, they live in the freshwater, they live in the saltwater, and they live here abundantly here at Doheny State Beach. And I'm guessing they live in your neighborhoods, in your parks, and possibly even in your backyards. Now, birds are similar to mammals in the fact that they have warm blood. However, the body design of a bird is a little different than a body design of a mammal. I'm going to go ahead and take one of them out so you can see. So although all birds have similar body designs, they're designed specific to the habitat that they live in. So the most common ones are songbirds. Okay, so that's one of my stars to begin with. Now a bird, like I said, has warm blood like a mammal. Do they have bones? Yes, they have a skeleton, but guess what? They have hollow bones. Why do they have hollow bones? If you're saying so they can be light and fly, you're exactly right, but there's a couple. My junior rangers told me they have solid bones, but that's going to be your homework assignment, right? Now, do they have fur? No, they have feathers, right? Typically, they're very colorful, but not all of them. Some of them are colorful, some of them camouflage. We talked about camouflage with the mammals, right? And you can see on this one here, this oriole, right? They have legs, right? And they have some type of grasping or some type of foot, claw. And then they have a beak, right? And that's how they eat. And they have the eyes. So that's the general body design. So like I said a few minutes ago, songbirds would be the ones that most people are familiar with. Those are the ones that are singing a song, no matter if it's raining or if it's sunny in the morning and at night, they're singing and singing and singing. Why do you think they're singing? They're communicating, right? Some of them sing beautifully, some of them squawk, right? So the songbirds are the ones that you would see. They come to your feeders, your hummingbird feeders and things like that. And those are the ones that probably, I think, are the most abundant. Okay? So they have a body design specific to grasping branches because a lot of times they live in the trees, right? Okay? And seasonably here at Doheny, we have different songbirds. And we have a lot of them here, right? So you can see the different ones here with their grasping claws and their little kind of blunt beak. What do you think they like to eat? Yeah, they like to eat seeds from your bird feeders, but their natural food would be seeds in Mother Nature, like sunflower seeds, maybe some little fruits and things like that. Like I said, these are the ones that you would see flying and perching, and you'd hear them singing. Okay, so the songbird group. And by the way, as a side note, this is our California state bird. California quail. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of them here because they like to kind of live in the wild parks like Crystal Cove State Park and Laguna Beach or San Mateo Campground down there in South San Clemente. And guess what? They don't sing. They get startled and they're scared and they go, Chicago, Chicago. And maybe you could Google that and see what their bird sounds like. It's really cute. All right. Here at Doheny, we have an estuary or a creek or a watershed, and I did a video about that too on Biodiversity Day. So we have a group of birds that kind of hang out and feed and live and have their nests and everything in the creek. And this is one that we have year-round. And it's, you can see his body design is a little different. Look at his beak. It's kind of rounded. And if you were to look underneath the beak, he has these little ridges, right? And then he doesn't have the little claws. He has little paddles, like if you're gonna go boogie boarding or snorkeling, you put on little flippers, right? So if he lives in the water, how do you think that helps him survive in Mother Nature? He's flapping, right? And as I said, they live in San Juan Creek here at Doheny, and you'll see him flapping and flapping, right? Now look at this one, right? This is one of the things I was talking about earlier. He's all camouflaged with his brown feathers, but look at his green head. If you were to see him in the sunlight, he's very beautifully colored. So in Mother Nature, in the bird world, who do you think's more colorful? The boys, the males, or the girls, the females? Guess what, boys and girls? It's the boys, because they're trying to look all good to attract the girls. So maybe sometime you can come and see them in the watersheds where you live, or maybe at Doheny, or maybe down at San Mateo at the Wild Creek down there, right? So they're paddling about, and all of a sudden, guess what they do? They duck under, and they kind of start waggling their tail. And what do you think they're doing? Do you think they eat nuts and berries and bugs and seeds? They live in the water. They like to eat all that kind of slimy stuff. And people sometimes when they're walking or they're riding their bikes are going, wow, there's a lot of green, icky stuff in the creek at Doheny. Guess what? That's the mallard's food. So that's one of the estuary or marsh birds, right? And we have a lot. Some of them fly from hundreds of miles away just to come rest at Doheny. Now, in addition to the fresh water, we have salt water, the whole Pacific Ocean. So I'm going to share with you one of our newest mounts. These are taxiderm mounts. I talked about that with the mammals. And this little feller is probably one of our most common. And can you see what is going on with him? He looks like he's doing bird yoga, huh? Right? Look at him, what balance. Well, does anybody know who this is, by the way? This is a type of gull or seagull. He's called a Hermann Gull, kind of a fun name. And they live along the beaches and in the ocean. Sometimes they go to the creek too. And I talked about some of the mammals, like the raccoons and Skinny the squirrel getting into people's food. Well, guess what? These guys, look at how different, okay? So he kind of has webbed feet like the mallard, and then he has a longer beak. So what do you think if he lives down there in the water's edge, what do you think he should be eating? Maybe things in the sand, maybe fish, squishy snails and things like that, crabs, right? He's got the utensils to eat it, right? But guess what sometimes he does? He waits for you to go in the water, and then he waddles on up and he starts getting into your lunch or your food. Now, do you see how he's missing a foot? I'm thinking maybe he got into some kind of trouble because he's missing a foot. So he got maybe tangled up in trash. So when you go to the beach, always pack up your trash, always throw it away. In fact, if you see any fishing line, balloons, any of that, these guys get confused and they eat it. What do you think happens? So let's do our part to keep the beach clean for the creatures and for ourselves. So this is one of the examples of a shorebird, right? All right, so we talked about songbirds, freshwater birds, saltwater birds. Now we're going to go into the open skies here. And we have a few of them. These are some of the taxiderm mounts celebrating the world of raptors or birds of prey. Now, considering Doheny's kind of a little island surrounded by a lot of development, we don't have a large variety of the birds of prey because they need a lot of space. However, we do have a few. Okay, let me find them. These guys, usually you hear them before you see them. So that's another bird you can maybe pull up on the internet and find out what kind of sound they make. This right here is a hawk, a bird of prey. We have hawks, we have falcons, we have eagles, and this is a Cooper's hawk. And look at how different. He's got claws, true claws that are all hooked. And look at his hooked beak. Okay, so as I was saying in the very beginning, they're all designed specific to where they live and how their lifestyle. So with tools like that, do you think he eats nuts and berries and seeds? Do you think he eats squishy little algae and little squishy things and crabs and things like that? He likes to eat mice and rats and sometimes even squirrels. So here at Doheny, the Cooper's hawk is one of the common ones because he doesn't have a really large wingspan. He has a smaller wingspan. However, if you look at this one next to him, this is a red-tailed hawk. You can vaguely see his red tail. But look at his wingspan. Right? So he soars and he waits for warm, windy days and you can't even hear him. Okay, red-tailed hawks, and they like to live where there's a lot more open space. And as I said, if you listen, you can hear them. They have a very distinct call. Okay, here's another red-tailed hawk. Well, luckily, boys and girls, in this last year, we've had a real special visitor with the Osprey. And these guys, they are the Seahawks. And so they're a bird of prey or a raptor with their body design. But if you were to look a little closer, right where their talons are, their claws, they're kind of rough because what do you think they eat? Do you think they like to eat rats and mice and snakes and squirrels and bunny rabbits? If they're a Seahawk? They like to eat fish, and fish usually are kind of slippery, right? So as I said, we've been having Osprey this year, and we're so excited. One of our wonderful volunteers, Tom Baker, he's been taking pictures and documenting. You can go on our website and see the pictures. And they like to perch out there where the lifeguard headquarters is. A Seahawk. Yes, beautiful. He has a real fun way of communicating. Okay, so as you can see, looking on the top of these other display cases, we have a large variety of birds at Doheny. In addition to the ones that I'm talking about, different ones come different times of the year. This is winter time here at Doheny, so we have the grebes that are hanging out there. We have cormorants. These are birds that have a long beak. See how this curlew has a long beak? He lives along the shore. What do you think he does with that beak? Well, if you go down to the shoreline, you can see these ones with the long beak. They're kind of walking, and they stick that beak in the sand, and they like to eat crunchy things, or kind of like a larger variety. And in addition to the curlews and the long beaks, we have egrets and black-crowned night herons that live in the poo-poo tree at Doheny State Beach. And it used to be legendary, but guess what? They cleaned up the poo-poo tree and they trimmed it, and the birds don't come so much, but you might get lucky if you go visit the poo-poo tree. So you're gonna have to come down and see that one. Okay? And these are one of my favorites, are the ravens. And they have a real fun way of communicating. They're similar to the seagulls in the fact that they're kind of opportunists. Well, boys and girls, as you can see, I'm very excited talking about birds. And during the summer, my junior rangers and I dedicate a whole week just celebrating birds. We do a bird talk, we do a bird walk, we do bird arts and crafts, and I'm surely hoping that you can join me for when we do the Junior Rangers during the summertime. Well, the last bird, before I say goodbye, is an endangered bird that we have living year-round at Doheny. There's not a lot of them, so when I see them, I'm so happy. And this is the brown pelican. And they like to eat fish, similar to the sea hawk, to the osprey. And they started eating a fish that had a chemical in them, and that's why they were endangered. You know, birds lay eggs. I forgot to talk about that. They don't give live birth like mammals, they lay eggs. And when the brown pelican was laying on the egg to incubate them, the egg shells would crack. And that's another homework assignment if you want to research that, and that's why they were endangered. Well, we love them so much at Doheny that he's our park mascot for Doheny State Beach Foundation. That's our nonprofit that helps us by paying for some of these beautiful displays at our state park and our visitor center. All right, well, I'm hoping that inspires you to start being aware of birds and start looking and listening, and maybe I'll see you at Doheny. And next time, we're gonna visit the sea. So I hope that you'll come back and join me again. Thank you very much. Happy trails.